listeners, this is Everett Maxine, the creator and host of The Absence of Her podcast. This podcast was birthed July 2019 in memory of my mother, who was found deceased June 19th, 2018. I share my life experiences to let others know they are not alone. Over the past few years, I spoke mainly from a place of pain during the beginning of my grief journey. And as I'm learning to navigate the journey and help my listeners as well, I have relaunched to share more from a positive space of purpose. On all of my social media accounts, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, you can follow my handle, I am Everett Maxine. The podcast now has its own Instagram page, The Absence of Her podcast. Make sure to follow it as well. If you enjoyed this episode, like it, leave a comment, and most importantly, share. My podcast is not monetized. I simply share so that others know they are not alone. There was a popular saying a couple of years ago that you cannot pour from an empty cup. But many of us do it daily out of loyalty, commitment, selflessness, and even guilt. We sacrifice self-care and our mental health, sometimes even our finances, to help someone else that we call friend, support members of our families, our jobs, and even ministry. This series, Pouring from an Empty Cup, will talk about showing up, sacrifice, and support as a friend, family member, employee, and a church member. Let us begin today with friendships. Now, I'm not a follower of celebrities, but a while back I was scrolling through Instagram and noticed a post basically attacking Jackie Christie from Basketball Wives. One of her friends had a child pass away, and although she had previously stated she doesn't do funerals, many in the comments felt the same as the offended friend, that Jackie should have made an appearance and put her own personal feelings aside if she really was a real friend. Are there boundaries that should be respected within friendships? Can we or should we place expectations on friendships? Does putting yourself second make you more of a friend? If you call someone friend, when you say jump, should they say how high? As I've shared throughout the years of podcasting, that my grandmother passed May 28, 2018, and my mom was found deceased less than a month later on June 19th. Then I was already 2 years into my separation from my now ex-husband, and our divorce will be finalized November 5th of the same year, 5 days before my 38th birthday. That was a lot of sadness, grief, and drama. Because unfortunately, death brings out the worst in people. People did not show up for me as I expected. But was I wrong for placing expectations on the type and amount of support I should receive? Kinda. Honestly, I don't believe there's an exact black and white answer. When it comes to people showing up for me, and throughout my 43 years of life, the numbers have been few. For few people is my preference because I don't want people all around me that feel obligated to be present. I prefer authentic relationships in which my friends and I have an understanding that we each have lives outside of our friendships. Death can be viewed differently, especially if it's the loss of a parent or a child or a life taken unjustly. The presence of friends and family are expected, and when they do not meet that expectation, then we become disappointed and at times angry. But is the anger really about them? Or is it because your cup is empty, seeking to be filled by your recently departed loved one? Have you sat and considered the source of your anger during grief? I said I was kind of wrong for placing expectations on showing up, because if people were not present in my life prior to the death, then I would feel as if their presence is not authentic. So I would not receive the support well anyway. Back to my example. What if Jackie decided to put her feelings to the side and was triggered by attending the funeral or being at a gathering where people were in mourning? Then who would support her? We don't always know a person's reasons for their boundaries, but if we call them friend, we should respect them and not trash talk them for not meeting our expectations. We're humans, and if my cup is empty, don't force me to keep pouring, because just like a car forced to drive with an oil level of 0, it can cause internal damage that is not always repairable. Sacrifice. Giving someone your time is a valuable sacrifice. In a series called Timing by Minister Jerry Flowers Jr., he speaks of time as currency and that we should begin viewing people like money. We should be giving people titles such as, are they a time bill or are they an investment? Only God knows our end date, so we must use our time wisely. A few years back, after my mother had passed away and my divorce, I began placing my phone on DND. And if you've never heard of DND, that is Do Not Disturb. I also do not have children, so limiting access to me was appropriate. Now, there are some people who felt they should have access to me whenever they called, and it became draining. Most days after work, I wanted to listen to music on the way home, or just silence. On the weekends, Saturday would be my chill day to prepare for Sunday, which is dedicated to God and church. If you are not careful, you will find your cup empty from pouring into others when you should be replenishing your supply. I would rather have my friend be well rested and the best version of themselves when we chat or connect versus tired remnants of their personality because their cup is empty. If you do not care about the emotional well-being of your friends, what does that say about you? Are you really a friend? Also, if you can recognize that your friend doesn't respect your need for replenishment, what does that say about you? In therapy, I learned there are 3 different types of friends. A friend that pours into you, a friend that you pour into, and a friend that walks alongside you. For me, I have come to realize that I'm a pourer. For many, but strong people need to be poured into as well. The last few years, I have been intentional in requesting that God send women into my life that can pour into me and walk alongside me. The last thing, but no lesser than the other 2, is support. What does the support of a good friend look like? Should several of your friends be able to support the same way? Do things have to be done your way to feel supported? I remember some years ago when I still lived in Bay City, a friend was going through a rough time. She was trying to move out of town, her car was broken, and she found out her boyfriend had a baby on the way with another woman. I know the first thing a friend thinks they should say is, get rid of the man, move on. I have never had children by a man that cheated and produced a baby with a side chick, and even though I have been cheated on, that does not give me the authority to tell her what to do about her relationship. So each day I would show up, take her for a ride to do errands, or take the kids on an outing. My showing up to support her left her surprised because normally people say, text me or call me if you need anything. Do you know that not all of your friends have the ability to ask for support when they need it? Sometimes they can even be afraid to say anything because your response oftentimes may cross boundaries in the situation with Jackie and her friend. I do not believe anything Jackie did outside of the friend's expectations would have been seen as support. Jackie acknowledged the child's passing, gave her condolences, but also recognized her own limitations, and that, for a friend from a friend, should have been enough. As we enter into the second quarter of the year, think about your friendships. How do you show up for your friends? How much time have you sacrificed for your friends? How do you support your friends? Are you setting unrealistic expectations and not respectful of their boundaries because you are friends? I am Everett Maxine. I want to thank you for listening to The Absence of Her podcast. Please like, follow, and most importantly, share, so others will know they are not alone.